In the 25 years that I've seen, it has changed. It's usually, I haven't seen this extreme this early in May and late April. It's hard on our fire personnel, and they do burn out, especially when you're starting in April, and you can run all the way till October, November.
Yeah, and the hours you're working, right? It's not just an 8-hour shift, and the conditions you're working in.
Well, fire experts, as you just heard, saying the term fire season is outdated because climate change, the increase of extreme weather events, it's making this a year-round thing.
Yeah, so here to talk about this is Michael Mann. He is the director of the Earth Systems Science Center at Penn State University. Thank you so much for being with us. And of course, you know, just talking about the term fire season. Can you give us some perspective, Dr. Mann, of what it was like? Obviously, we know what it's like now, but let's go back 20, 30 years. Did we actually had fire seasons?
Yeah, so, you know, we certainly did. But what we've seen over that period of time, 30, 40 years, is actually a tripling or even quadrupling in the extent of these wildfires. And so they are burning now over a much larger region in the Western United States. They spread faster, they burn hotter, they're more damaging and destructive and deadly for a very simple reason. We're making the climate drier out there. We're making it hotter. You put those two ingredients together and you get these unprecedented wildfires like we've seen out west in the United States in recent years, like they've seen down in Australia and around the world in sort of subtropical and mid-latitude regions. We're seeing a tremendous increase in the extent of these wildfires.
So, Dr. Mann, we've identified the problem. We have year-round fire season now. Is there anything that we can do to change this? Have we gone past a point where we can't change this anymore? Or are there things or steps that we can still take so that we don't have fires year-round?
Yeah, you know, there isn't much that we can do right now to sort of, you know, return things to the way they used to be. In the very best scenario, we're sort of stuck with a new normal. That is to say, if we can prevent further warming, if we can prevent further drying and a worsening of these wildfires, we're still going to have to deal with this elevated risk for decades to come. But we can keep that risk within manageable levels. Again, if we solve this problem at its source, which is to stop adding carbon pollution to the atmosphere, which is warming up the climate and creating these more prevalent conditions. And meanwhile, we do need to adapt to those changes that are now locked in, that we need to deal with, that we're forced to contend with. And that means, for example, no longer building structures in areas that are especially wildfire prone, and building with materials and sort of managing the land surface in a way that is more resilient in the face of these hotter, drier conditions. But ultimately, we're sort of stuck with what we have in the best case scenario. We can prevent it from getting worse if we, again, act on the climate crisis now.
You know, you mentioned building in areas that are fire prone. You know, if you're let's say, getting ready to retire, you have this vision of buying some land and living out in the forest and being in a beautiful area. Do you see a time where we might have to limit that and not allow building to take place, let's say, on a 20-acre parcel that you buy in the middle of a mountain somewhere?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, that's what's happening down in Australia, where I did a sabbatical a couple of years ago during what has come to be known there as the Black Summer, this summer of unprecedented bushfires that blanketed the continent. We all saw those images coming out of Australia that summer. And there are areas, there are regions of Australia where they now see such widespread and recurrent wildfires that they can no longer safely build there. These are often areas that people like to retire to.
Right.
They're warm, they have a nice climate, but now they're not safe to live in.
That's crazy to think about that, heading in that direction. We do got to give a real big plug for you. Michael has a new book out that delves deeper into climate change, of course. The New Climate War is what it's called, and it is out now for anybody that is interested in conversations like this. Thank you for your time, for being with us and giving us some perspective. Yeah.